Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your Resource for Success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and award-winning author. Welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have special guest Abe Abich. Abe founded Abich Financial Services in 2008 and has nearly 2 decades of experience in financial services. He is a seasoned retirement income planning professional, a certified financial fiduciary, hosts the DC Metro Area radio show, Retirement Key Radio on 105.9 WMAL, and hosts the television show Retirement Key TV on WUSA 9 and ABC7 WJLA. Abe has helped close to 1,000 individuals and families prepare for their financial futures, and his experience has authored articles that can be seen in Forbes and Fortune, as well as served as a member of the Forbes Financial Council. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Abe Abich. Hey, Abe, how are you?
Hey, Kim, I'm doing fantastic and excited to be on this podcast with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I've known you for a long time, so we have some history. I'm one of your clients. That makes it even better.
Yep, we go way back.
We do. I remember, of course, we have to give a shout out to Seanie Wright, because Seanie was the person who introduced me to you, and that has been many years ago.
Yes. Oh, yes, I remember. Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah. And Seanie are very close friends, and she is still my realtor to this day. So
Excellent.
It has been a great, here we come full circle now. I never thought I would be enjoying and doing a podcast. You have your own radio shows, and you've had a lot going on since we've first met. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. But before we start diving into the questions and talking about some of the serious stuff, why don't you tell my listeners a little bit more about who Abe is?
Sure, yeah. Kim, my wife Shelley and I, we live in Leesburg, Virginia, and I've been in the retirement planning world and industry for now 20 years. And, why I help people every day stems from my past and how I grew up. And I don't know if you knew this, but I grew up in a strong Christian family home, but and always had a roof over our heads, but always grew up with very little financial means. And I'll use my father as an example. 2 master's degrees, part of a PhD program done. Kind of grew up in an old school family where he controlled the finances, and my mom was there, but probably had very little say. And some bad decisions were made, and she relied heavily on my father for that. So there was this book education, but no education on finances, on investing, on saving for their futures. And so 20 years ago, when I started helping people with their retirements, I realized what my brother and I went through, and I set my own personal mission out to be to help as many people that I personally could retire with dignity and confidence. And Abich Financial Services, our company, we do that here as well. We help people retire with dignity and confidence by providing good financial education. Once you have that good financial education, you should be able to make sound financial decisions about your future. So that's a little bit more about myself and why I do what I do. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like you said, kind of the typical interesting story where it's amazing how, like you said, we can have so many people who are very educated, and we've all kind of gone through that process where you can be extremely educated but never educated enough on understanding your retirement and why it's important to have it. And I think a big part of it, as we all know, is usually fear of the unknown. And that's somebody controlling the money, and, how can you trust that person? And I think those are the huge factors that, people go through every day trying to make these decisions. Because I know even though I'm very comfortable with you, but, everybody has those ups and downs of realizing that the market is going this direction, the market's going that direction. And how do you, keep that control, and how do you feel that trust is still there? And I think that's a big part of why people are saying, nope, I still don't want to do this. And do you still, I guess, have people who come to you who still have that old mentality of, I'm going to keep the money underneath the mattress mentality?
Yeah, I would say it can be very daunting, Kim. Sometimes I compare it to maybe going to a dentist or a doctor, and, I'll speak for the men, that's not something that men typically enjoy, but women realize the importance and typically go regularly, where men may skip a few years, with those checkups. But nevertheless, sometimes it is daunting to go to a dentist or doctor, but at the end of the day, you go, you feel better about yourself. If something's wrong, you get some medicine for it, you find out what's wrong and try to get it fixed. Same thing with a financial and a retirement plan. It can be really daunting to get in there and sit down with somebody that's a fiduciary, financial advisor, or retirement planner, because maybe there's a lot that you don't know about your own finances and all the options out there. But there's a lot of noise right now in the world, and there always will be. And so what we encourage our clients to do, Kim, is focus in on what they can control. One of those big things is their own personal financial and retirement plan. Control what you can, right? Control how much risk you take. Control when you pay taxes, making sure you have enough insurance, making sure you're saving enough, and doing everything possible in your own power inside your own home to be prepared for retirement. So that's what we encourage.
And that's the key, encouraging that control. And like you said, I think that's been the biggest issue that I've heard and see people talk about, is they just don't want somebody to control their environment, but not understanding that how important it is that, things change too quickly to try to always do everything on your own. So to have somebody that you can depend on, I think that's a more comfort zone for me. And being that, when you're a busy professional, one thing I don't want to have to worry about is that part. I know it's being taken care of. It's like, here's the money, do what you need to do. You know what I mean? So I think that's,
you're right.
Kind of an important factor, for people to start to think about. And it's never too soon, in my opinion, to start dealing with your retirement income. Why don't you explain the importance of why it's better to start sooner than later?
Oh, man, because we have the time, right? So, if you're listening right now and you're in your 40s and 50s, you have more time than a 65-year-old, right? So the more time that you have in front of you, the better, because with time comes tax deferral and compounding and all of that growth of all of those dollars that you're able to put away. It is significant. So it's never too early to start. I would also encourage those of you listening that may be a little bit older, perhaps you're 60, 65, even 70, it's not too late either. And also, we're in the middle of a pretty volatile stock market period. You don't have to panic. You don't have to be paralyzed by fear. There are options. There is a lot you can still do, even if you're down 15 to 20% this year, by having a plan, by being more financially educated about all of your options. Those are some things that we can control. In terms of retirement income, Kim, you want a roadmap, right? If you're going to a new destination, out of state, in state, new restaurant, what have you, you're probably going to throw it in GPS, right? Because you don't want to waste your time and get lost. Us men, we may try to figure it out and just, I know where that is, and, sure enough, we're lost, right? Women are smarter. They're going to put that in the GPS and not waste time. We need GPS for our retirement as well. We need a roadmap for our retirement where we can see what all of our income looks like, where we're factoring in our insurances, our investments, taxes, healthcare, extremely important for women especially. Women outlive men on average by several years. Wow. And the older and older we get, the higher the chance there is for a need of some type of health care, whether that be in your home, adult daycare facility, or nursing home. And so that's a huge concern for women, is health care down the road, a health care or long-term care event, and outliving the money that they've saved, because they typically live 3 or 4 years longer than the average male.
Wow, that's interesting. I never knew those statistics were still very consistent, in this day and age, because everybody seems to be living longer. I even noticed that as I'm, now in my mid-50s, I can remember when I turned 50, the big thing was, got to get my AARP, right? As soon as I got the AARP, they changed the age bracket. which was now it's 55. I was like, really?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, you don't really think about it at the time, because, at the time of being 50 is almost like, oh, I'm embarrassed to be 50. But now it is the thing that, being 50 and older, it is the consistency that we're living longer, we're healthier, and we're doing things differently. So, as we're focusing tonight a little bit on our conversation about women, I don't a lot of times here in the circles of people around, even though we're all professionals, we don't really sit down and talk about how important the planning phase is for women. And you just mentioned a few other things that are important that we should, and with women living longer. But talk about a little bit of some of the ideas that you convey and put out to the women, because I know you have some really great programs and you have other events that are truly strictly for women to come and listen to.
I'll tell you, Kim, the 5 top things that we find that women are concerned with as they approach retirement, get closer to retirement. I'm talking, women that are maybe 5 to 10 years away from full retirement or less, maybe already there. Number one, in no particular order, Social Security. We've got to get that decision right. That we worked our entire lives. We have earned and deserved this benefit when we retire, and we've got to get the decision right. So maximizing Social Security and choosing the best age for you is really important, and really important to most women to get that decision right. So what you don't want to do, Kim, is follow generic mass advice and, hear someone on the radio say, oh, just, every female should take Social Security at 70. Well, that might be right for you and may not be right for you as well.
Right.
So you want to have, a special Social Security optimization or maximization report ran for you to help you determine when it is best for you to take it, because your needs are different than mine. Your needs are different than your neighbors, and everyone has or should have a plan that's customized to them. Number 2, taxes. So it's one thing to have enough money saved for retirement, but I think one of the biggest myths of retirement planning is that when we retire, we're going to be in a lower tax bracket, right? Because maybe our income's in retirement. But in the D.C. metro area especially, that is not true for a lot of people.
Wow.
If you have a pension, Social Security check, and then you've done a good job and you've saved, let's just say $500,000, $1 million or more, you could have more income in retirement than you did when you were working. And then if you've stopped working and you're not maxing out your 401k, and maybe your house is paid off, or maybe hopefully your kids are out of the home by the time you retire, and then Congress changes and the tax code changes and the tax rates and brackets go up, we could be looking at a ticking tax time bomb. We could be looking at taxes going up and impacting our retirement dollars, all the dollars we just worked the last 40 years to save.
Right.
So women are concerned with making the right Social Security decisions. They're also concerned with taxes and how to lower and mitigate taxes on their retirement life savings. Healthcare, a huge concern. We just talked about that a minute ago. Women outlive men by 3 or 4 years on average. I'll give you my grandmother as a good example. On my dad's side, my grandmother lived to be 96, and my dad's side is Lebanese and Cuban, and so they live long, and she lived to be 96, but from 90 years old to 96, she started slowing down, and she went from the top floor of the house where all the bedrooms were down to the middle floor, so they had to bring her down. Right? She couldn't climb the stairs anymore.
Right.
Down to the middle floor, and then a hospital-style bed instead of her own bed, and then a super part-time nurse to a full-time nurse, from one full-time nurse to 2 full-time nurses, and then in and out of the hospital from 90 to 96, and then eventually at 96, she passed. And she would be like the matriarch of the family, and she made all the food, and she ran that house and that home. But from 90 to 96, 6 years, she needed part-time and full-time care in her own home, and then in and out of facilities. And had my family not had the resources, had she not had insurance to help pay for those expenses, that is a risk, a cost that can really drain and deplete our assets in retirement. So we want to have a health care plan, or a plan for us needing long-term care assistance down the road in retirement. Fourth, we need a retirement income plan. I just mentioned that before as well. We need a roadmap, a GPS for our retirement. Where are we headed? Do we have enough saved, or do we need to save more? And then of all the money that we do have saved, where is it? Is it in a pre-tax account, Roth accounts? Is it in real estate? Is it in crypto? Hopefully not too much in crypto right now, the way the crypto markets have been. But nonetheless, we need a roadmap. We need a plan to see where all of these resources are, and is it enough, or do we need to save more before we actually fully retire? And then once we have retired, let's say we're 65 or fully retired, you might live to 90, 95 years old, another 25 to 30 years. And is the money you have saved enough, adjusted for inflation, to last you as long as you live? Finally, with all that said, we don't want to take on any extra risk or market risk than necessary. Everyone knows you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. So we want proper allocation, diversification of our investments is really important the closer and closer you get to retirement. Typically, the rule of thumb is when you're young, hey, and be very aggressive, try to save and accumulate as much as you can. And the closer and closer you get to retirement, the more conservative we should become, because our working paychecks will stop. And then we have to start thinking about generating paychecks from our portfolio and everything we've done to save for retirement. So those are the 5 things here at Abich Financial that we hear from our female clients that are of top concern to them. And top concern to women in general approaching retirement.
Right. So, and that's excellent, because that's very good information, because I know that women are definitely thinking that same thing. The living longer is usually the number one thing. But I think what I'm hearing a lot more today when it comes to people wanting to retire is that a lot of people don't want to retire because they feel good, they want to continue to work. So how do you work those type of situations where they got one foot in the door, one foot out the door?
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Matter of fact, a lot of our clients and a lot of retirees, I think, do that. Whether you're retiring in your 60s, late 50s, early 70s, a lot of people don't want to stop. They want to stay active. Typically, most people don't need to continue working, but a lot of people want to continue working to some degree. They're mentally sharp, physically sharp. Maybe not to drive their spouse crazy either inside the house. I need to get out of the house, otherwise I'm going to drive my wife crazy. So a combination of things are reasons why a lot of people will not stop cold turkey from full-time to no working income at all, but they'll typically go from, maybe both spouses working if you're married, to one spouse, and then maybe from that one spouse finishing off from full-time to part-time, and then a gradual retirement is what we see most often, just because, hey, you got to keep yourself busy. People want to stay sharp and active, get out of the house, and feel like they still have purpose.
Right.
So if you are going to fully retire, what I encourage any of our listeners to do is to have a lifestyle plan for your retirement, just as important as having a retirement plan itself. What are you going to do in retirement? What's going to occupy your time? How are you going to keep yourself busy? What are the things that you love to do? What fills your life with purpose?
Exactly.
Is it volunteering at a church? Is it volunteering at a nonprofit? Is it traveling? Do you have some type of hobby that you love to do that's going to keep you happy in retirement? Spending time with the grandkids, whatever it is. You want to have a plan for that. And what we find, Kim, is that a lot of our clients are more busy in retirement, which is a good thing. We're in their working career because they have all this time, and there are plenty of ways to fill the time. So I think that's really important is continue to dream. Continue to dream as you transition into retirement. This is the next third of your life, the next third part of your life, the next 20, 25, 30 years. So it's important that I think we continue to do the things we love. So it's going to keep us happy.
Exactly. And I'm seeing more and more women, or women specifically, but men too, but they come out of their work, they retire, and then they open a business. So how do you, get them to kind of balance that? Because I think that's important to know that they have that income there when they are ready to go. But then here we go. We got some more new income coming through the door, or even more possibly than when it was when they were actually working. I think what
a great retirement looks like, I think what a successful retirement looks like, Kim, in my eyes, is whatever you want to do in retirement. If that's opening up a new business, if that's just, moving out of the D.C. metro area and, downsizing and living at the beach, whether it's spending all your time with the grandkids, whether it's volunteering a lot of your time, whatever it is that makes you the most happy, that makes you the most fulfilled, if you can do that without worrying about money, without worrying about your income, without worrying about the stock markets, then I think that's a successful retirement. One of our recent clients that just joined our firm in 2022, before he joined, he said, Abe, I look forward to Fridays at 4:00 when the stock markets are closed because I don't have to worry about my portfolio. And this gentleman and his wife came on board our company this year because that is not a way to live.
No, exactly.
If you can go about and you can do everything you've ever wanted or dreamed of in retirement without worrying about your income and where it's coming from and without worrying about your portfolios and the markets, in my opinion, as a retirement planner, that is an extreme success.
Exactly.
And so, that's what I would say. If it's opening up a new business, if it's spending time with your family and grandkids, a lot of people want to travel the world because they were working their entire careers. And so whatever that is, write it down. Put together a plan for all the time. How are you going to spend your time in this phase two, in this second part of your life?
Right. Now, you mentioned that Social Security obviously is very important for people to want to get it. I know people kind of go back and forth between, okay, should I get it at, age 62 or 65? And I know that they moved it up to 70. So what happens, or do you see in the future that there may not be Social Security available? So how does that going to affect your... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, great question. Great question, Kim. Yeah. There is some talk about maybe Social Security not being around 100% in its entire form. I think both sides of Congress, all sides of government have made this promise to Americans. I personally believe it will be there. Now, benefits may be cut, maybe discounted, maybe lowered in the full maybe full retirement is pushed back from currently 67 to maybe 70, 72, 75. But this is one decision that we want to get right. And so I would encourage, and this is free, there is no financial advisor or retirement planner that sells Social Security, but they should be helping you to plan for it because it's probably going to be several $1,000s a month, and it's a decision we want to get right. So typically, it really does depend on when it is best to take it for you. If you are working through your 60s and you don't need the income, you might want to defer and delay it to let that benefit grow, right? Okay. And from full retirement age to 70, it does grow by a guaranteed compounded 8% per year every year we don't touch it, from full retirement age to 70. Wow. However, if you do wait till 70, as a female, you better live long, and you probably will. As a female, if you till 70 to take Social Security, you better live to your mid to late 80s, and you very well could. And the reason for that is because if we wait, we want to make sure that it was worth the wait. Right. That by waiting, we would have received more money by taking it at 70 versus taking it at 67 or 62. However, if you waited till 70 and then you pass away at 72 or 75 or 80, it would have definitely been better to take benefits at maybe 65, 67, or even 62. So the general rule of thumb is if you take benefits early and you die before maybe age 82, it would have been best to take benefits early. If you wait till full retirement age, 65 to 67, and you live past age 82, you would win by waiting a few years. And if you wait till 70, you better live to about 85 and beyond and make it worth waiting. The big question is, or the big thing is, none of us know when we're going to pass away. Exactly. And if we did, we could get the decision correct 100% of the time. So you want to look at your current situation, figure out, do you really need it? Can you defer and delay it and let it grow? If we have your birth date and we know about your entire financial situation, what's going on, put that into our Social Security planning software to help you determine when it is best for you.
All right. Wow.
Yep.
That was interesting because I know that's been a huge topic, and there's always the back and forth when people conversate about Social Security that, it's like, well, why let the money just sit in there where you can get it at an earlier age?
True.
Because we don't know, at the same time, we really don't even know it can continue to build. But, for some people, they need it now because that they do live off of that. That's important for them as a part of their retirement. And, with all the things that you laid out, those 5 items that you laid out, it's very important for anybody, whether you're a woman or not, to really understand your structure. But the biggest thing that I have seen with people just in everyday doing business with them is that they don't pay attention to where their income, they got the income coming in, but they don't know how much is going out. And that is so crucial in anything that we do is understanding the basics.
When we put together a retirement income plan, Kim, a retirement roadmap, GPS for your retirement, the first thing we need from anybody is, what are you spending? What are your expenses? And it needs to be as tight and as close to what you are spending as possible, because if we put together a retirement income plan for you and you tell us you're spending $5,000, but you're really spending $8 or $10, and only you truly know exactly what you're spending, we want to be honest with that number, because we build, or a fiduciary retirement planner will build an entire plan around what you are spending monthly and what you need in your account net every month after tax. So you really, if you don't have a budget, and you don't have a good grasp on what you are spending, you really want to go through that. I think that'd be a great exercise. Figure out what you are spending, look at your credit card statements, your mortgage, your rent, all your bills, add it up, and more than likely that's what you'll continue to need into retirement. Then build a plan around that to make sure your income's covering all the expenses, and hopefully you have a surplus. You have more than you need coming in.
Right, exactly. Oh, wow.
Yep.
I'm really enjoying this conversation. I could just keep talking because I think this is important, and even though I know we're talking a lot about, you should start now, I'm looking at 2023 coming around the corner, and I'm, want people to understand how important it is to not look at resolutions, but do something that's going to benefit you. Start out fresh, make sure you understand what direction you're going through in life. And a lot of times, like I said, these conversations just aren't something that people sit down and want to talk about. They're worried about little steps and little goals, which is perfectly fine. But this is a goal that's considered permanent, and I think it's so important that these conversations need to be talked about every day. And I love, like I said, what you're doing. You've been around for a long time, and I've seen you grow throughout these years, and you're just doing phenomenal stuff. But the key is just getting those right people to focus on the things that they need to really focus on.
Kim, you're exactly right. I would just encourage anyone listening right now to just take action, be proactive, put one foot in front of the other, and just start exploring the idea of putting together a plan, right? Like we said, there's a lot in this world you cannot control. But one thing you can control is your own personal financial plan and retirement plan. And there's a lot in those plans, right? But just start. Put one foot in front of the other. Sit down with somebody that is a fiduciary retirement planner that really has your best interest first, who is held by the highest standards in the industry to give advice that's in your best interest, who is a specialist and can help you. That way you don't have to worry about, can I trust this person? They're legally held to give you advice that's in your best interest. Just put one foot forward, right? And take action, and you'll be glad you did. You'll really be glad you did.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Like I said, we all know it's scary because it's like the unknown. But at the end of the day, when you have somebody that can guide you properly, and Abe, I know you are definitely the right person. You've been guiding me for years. As a matter of fact, when you said that, when most people start in their 40s, I'm like, yeah, I was in my 40s when I met you. So that's exactly when I started. So yeah, it's very important that, like I said, you have that guidance, and it's not about people having to feel like they have to have the answers. That is what you guys are there for, to help, ensure that people are going in the right path. So for those who are truly interested, this is the time. The time is now. It's not about waiting until it's too late. It's about taking those little baby steps, but those baby steps are going to be well worth it in the long run. So, Abe, before we leave and stop this conversation, this great conversation, why don't you tell the listeners how they can reach out to you if they're interested in, getting your services, and then, of course, talk about for a couple seconds your own radio show that you have.
Sure, yeah. Any listener right now can just go to retirementkeyradio.com, retirementkeyradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us tab at the top of the page, and just enter in your information and that you'd like a complimentary, we call it a Where Do I Stand plan. It's essentially a complimentary second opinion on what you're doing. And if you could also put in that you found out about us through Kim, that'd be fantastic, so we're aware. So that's how someone can reach us, retirementkeyradio.com. And then our podcast is actually called Retirement Key Radio, and you can find it via Google Play, Spotify, and iTunes if you just search for Retirement Key Radio, or my name, Abe, A-B-E, Abich, A-B as in boy, I-C-H.
All right. Well, again, I thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend with me this evening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kim.
It's my pleasure. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the new year. And so, like I said, for everybody else, please take the time to think about your future and get on board with this. And Abe, you also, like I said, at this point, we're going to be saying Happy New Year. So, again, like I said, thank you so much for your time. And then we'll be in touch soon.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, Abe. Have a good evening.
Okay.
All right.
You too.
Thank you. And so for everybody else, I just want to remind you about this great conversation that we just finished having in reference to taking care of your future. You have control over your future, and the future is now. So for those who are interested, like Abe said, in wanting to get their retirement planning in order, you can reach out to him at retirementkeyradio.com. Fill out the contact information. Make sure that you say that you heard this on my podcast show. And again, for those who can't remember my full name, it's Kimberly McLemore. And as you know, we're on Your Resource for Success podcast. Mention those two things, and Abe can get you hooked up and get you taken care of, because this is what you need to have to prepare for your future. And so again, like I said, I hope you all enjoyed this evening's show and the importance of preparing. If you're not prepared, as we said, it's time to have the conversation. If you want to reach out to me directly to get you connected to Abe, you can reach me at Kimberly at WSBILC@gmail.com. Let's chat about how to take those steps so you can turn your dreams into goals. Also, if you want more of Your Resource for Success, we do take monetary donations to support the podcast, and you can send those through Cash App, PayPal, GoodPods tip jar, or you can go directly to the website at www.wsbilc.com. Again, thank you. We'd like to say thank you for listening to us tonight. We'll be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.